Hello and good morning. Actually, for me, it's morning. I wanted to give you a quick video that had to do with the media effects on children's social and moral development. I know that a lot of us in our previous discussion last week have been talking about what we think the effects of media are. Some of you actually did a little bit of reading and found out, but I wanted to make sure that I addressed it more academically. So, for the past about 60 years, the primary focus and concern that people have had about children's media has really been as to how it affects their social, their moral development, their aggressive behaviors, etc., and whether or not there's actually maybe a pro-social outcome. And one of the articles that I have you reading actually shows that there could be something to that, and something perhaps even positive in some of children's watching or viewing of media that tends to be a little bit more aggressive in nature. So, first of all, there is something called the general learning model, and it proposes that any kind of experience that children have with media, remember, let's go back for a second. Remember that there are two kinds of memory. Your working memory is just a chemical change in your brain, and as soon as those chemicals dissipate, that memory kind of goes away. And then there is the physical structural change to the brain, where memory is actually embedded into the neurons and you remember things hopefully for a long term. And so when children are exposed to media, especially repeatedly, it doesn't just have that chemical reaction, it actually has that physical structural change to the brain. And so children have now new architecture, if you will, in the brain that actually addresses incorporating this new media that they've watched, read, engaged in into the physical structure of their brain, thereby changing the way the whole brain operates. Ergo, the whole child operates. And so part of that media exposure includes scripts, right? We learn how to say things to people, how to react in situations by watching how other people react in situations. Sometimes we'll even take on the exact phraseology or intonation that we see people doing that. I remember a long time ago when, I can't remember the name of the movie, but I remember people going, hey, hey, or back in the day, I'm dating myself, when we had Happy Days and the Fonz, people would always go, hey. And so the media effect, especially on our behavioral scripts, I would think is quite profound, especially on young children who are still impressionable. The theory, the general learning model, also proposes that your initial experiences, whether they're anger, fear, warmth, what kind of emotion you're supposed to have in any particular situation, when activated, these interconnected components, remember, assimilation and accommodation and new schema, it affects and influences people's appraisal of actions and situations and how they're supposed to react. And so how does this apply then to young children and their viewing of violent or aggressive content? In short, right, in the short term, the exposure to that, whether it's videos or TV or movies, etc., increases the probability that aggressive thoughts and feelings are activated, right? Because those are the schema that you now have in the brain. It also increases the probability that those young children are going to behave aggressively. I mean, it's just intuitive, but it's actually research-based as well. And in the long term, repeated exposure to violence, from what the research shows, seems to alter the viewer's beliefs and attitudes about aggression, really decreasing our ability to notice and respond to real world pain and suffering, and increasing our tendency to interpret those social situations in really more hostile ways. And I think we see a lot of that happening nowadays in this country. If what happened in Pittsburgh had happened 20 or 30 years ago, everybody would have been calling out us to become nicer and to get together and to be more brotherly and warm and love each other. And it's interesting that after Pittsburgh, The only people that I really see calling anything out are the news media. You don't really see movie stars or celebrities or politicians. I know that President Trump made one little remark, but then went on to comment about his bad hair day. And while this is not accusatory towards Trump whatsoever, it's really accusatory towards the entire country, which is that we have become so desensitized, I should say, to pain and suffering by use of how much media that we're being exposed to, that's what's happening. Oh, what a world it could be, huh?